The next speaker is Svetlana Rastvortseva, the role of information and communication technologies in regional development. We have 15 minutes. The screen is yours,
Okay,
Svetlana.
thank you very much. I will share my screen. Yes. First of all, dear colleagues, I would like to thank the organizers of the Congress for the opportunity to participate and present the result of my research. I'm very happy to be here, maybe not in PEC as I wanted, but presenting the results of my research online is also a great deal for me. And the topic of my research, the role of information and communication technologies in regional development. It's very connected with previous speakers' research. And here you can see a short plan of my presentation, introduction, theoretical background, very short theoretical background, dynamics of ICT development in the countries of the European Union, static and dynamic approaches to assessing the impact of ICT on economic development and growth, some results, and conclusion. And a short introduction. Technological progress is a key factor in the economic development of countries. Information and communication technologies, or ICTs, play an important role in transfer of knowledge. ICTs contribute to economic growth and the achievement of the 2015 Sustainable Development Goals. ICTs are changing the creation, production, distribution, and sale of all goods and services, improving the quality of products. It's fundamentally changed the nature of global relationships, create new sources of competitive advantage for companies, industries, and countries, increase productivity, and create new conditions for social and economic development. ICTs are possible for how people, consumers, industrial companies, and governments produce or acquire and disseminate knowledge around the world. And the purpose of the part of my research is to provide that certain components of ICT have a positive impact on economic development and growth. And I want to show that the impact of ICT on economic growth doesn't occur immediately, but it exists and plays an important role in the development of economic system. Here you can see short theoretical background. Of course, it should be much bigger, but I decided to save our time. And I would like to draw your attention to the latest study. It was like a guiding star for me. Yusuf, the author of this paper, assessed the impact of various ICTs on economic development and growth in the regions of Africa. He showed that such an impact on economic development, GDP per capita, is positive. And I conducted a study for the regions of Russia and got the same result. But the impact of ICT on economic growth is either negative or statistically insignificant. But logically, this can't be. Then the question arises, how to determine at what stage, for how long, and with what delay ICT have a positive impact on economic growth. We can divide all ICTs into 4 big groups. The first group can be presented as fixed telephone lines. And here you can see the number of fixed telephone subscriptions per 100 inhabitants in the countries of the European Union in 2000 and in 2020. For example, we can see that in Scandinavian countries, it's very expensive to take care about fixed telephone lines, and the share of users become less and less. In other countries, for example, in France, the telephone subscription increased during pandemic period in 2020. The second big group of ICT is mobile telephone service. We can see here the number of mobile subscriptions per 100 inhabitants. Maybe it looks a little bit strange that the level is higher than 100%, but it means that some of us have more than one mobile subscriptions. And in 2020, the situation is better than in previous years, when in some countries the number were higher than 200%. And I think it means that now we have better mobile providers and we don't need to buy several subscriptions. You can see here the number of fixed broadband subscriptions per 1,000 inhabitants. It is the third group of ICTs indicator, and we see an increase in countries of the European Union during this period of time. And the last group is internet users. It was from 19 to 83% of population in 2000, and now it is close to 100% in many countries of European Union. We can assume that ICT have a positive influence on economic development and growth. And I tried to prove this in two ways, using static and dynamic approaches. In static approach, we estimate the impact of various ICT groups on GDP per capita. We assume that the increase of ICT leads to increase of GDP per capita, and we move from point A to B or to C if we speak about decrease. But this improvement is only for 1 year, and next year a new impact of economic development will be needed. On the next slide, we see that there is no long-term economic effect. The dynamic approach shows how different groups of ICTs directly affect the pace of economic growth. The growth rate at a higher level, above zero, will lead to a constant increase in production. A decrease in economic growth will lead to a decrease in output, but not to zero. That's why it is important to understand whether ICTs affect economic growth in the long term or only contribute to an increase in GDP per capita. We used two economic models, Cobb-Douglas and neoclassical growth model. In the first case, the transformation of the model allowed us to show that economic development depends on capital and technological progress. Dynamic approach to assessing the impact of ICT on economic growth shows that the economic growth depended on capital gains and technology gains. And here I show only the first part of all these lines of these calculations, and the last part to show that it depends on capital gains and technology gains. And I would like to show two linear panel database equations, and in our econometric model we have we decided to include such factors as ICT represented by 4 groups separately, then gross fixed capital formation as a ratio of GDP, inflation rate, general government final consumption expenditure ratio, and export of goods and services ratio to GDP. And the results, or the main results of the research. In the table, you can see 4 models built for each ICT groups. When we use a static approach, we see that all ICT groups have a positive impact on economic development. Please note that only fixed telephone lines appeared since 1960. Data of other ICTs have been used since their appearance, used later. Approximately the same results can be seen in the work by Yusuf about African countries, about regions of African countries, and they were also obtained in my research in the regions of Russia. The only difference that in both cases ICTs appeared later. If in the USA countries it appeared up to 2000, in our countries it appears later. We got slightly different results when we assessed the impact of ICT on economic growth at once. If we take the full time period for evaluation, as it was in previous models, then the relationship shows itself as statistically insignificant or even negative. We shortened the study period by assuming that the impact of different groups of ICTs on economic growth occurs only at a certain stage. Usually it is during the initial period of ICT adoption, but not in all cases. Years later, when technology has already formed the basis of successful economic development, this influence is statistically lost. Moreover, it is possible to discover the positive impact of different technologies after some time. You can see that these models use lag values for different ICTs. For example, for fixed telephone lines, it's 3 years with lag. It gives some economic growth in 3 years. For mobile telephones in a year. For fixed broadband in 5 and 6 years, it's in 6 years it's negative, and internet users in 3 years. Thus, we see that the development of ICT infrastructure is necessary, but not sufficient measure for the innovative development of the economy. It gives the best result on the stage of formation in the European Union earlier, before 2000, in the Russian regions and in African regions later. Then the role of information and communication technologies in the development of innovation and economy moves from stimulating to supporting innovation. And here I would like to conclude why did we decide to conduct this study? Of course, we can say that ICT technologies that what was discussed in my presentation are results of yesterday's decision. Of course, we used all this technology, mobile phones, telephones, fixed telephones, and internet connections, and we don't now we don't think about it. And today, the very important topic is implementation of 5G technologies all over the world. And in some countries, such decision makers think about is it right way to implement 5G technologies or maybe not. They are hesitated, and if we don't show that each ICT technology has a positive impact not only on economic development but also on economic growth, and it's not so obviously without in-depth analysis, this may negatively affect policy decision making in the future. Thank you.